Hey, good morning, friends. Today is Monday, September the 16th, 2024, and the time now is 8:11 a.m. So, soft power is defined as a persuasive approach to international relations, typically involving the use of economic or cultural influence. I'm going to repeat that. Soft power is defined as a persuasive approach to international relations, typically involving the use of economic or cultural influence. I want to talk briefly today about India. So, this is going to be the first video about India. Now, for those of you who haven't watched my videos, on this channel, The Echoing Voice, each countries will have two playlists. The first playlist will be the country's name, and the second, domestic, the country's name. So, in this case, the playlist India will feature videos, programs, or talks that explore or examine India's position in international relations, its relationship or interactions with countries in South Asia, in Asia, and in the rest of the world, and also how India influenced the rest of the world, whether we are talking about economically, in terms of academics, in terms of resources, manufacture, infrastructure, diplomacy, and so on. The second playlist, Domestic India, will focus on the situation in terms of India's domestic experience, whether we are talking about economics, infrastructure, employment, youth and sports, women, minority groups, and so on. Now, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to this channel, The Echoing Voice. Also, please share the link to this video, the links to the rest of my videos, and the link to this channel with your friends and your families. Now, the reason that I want to talk about soft power in India is that India is like a sleeping giant, whether the Indians do realize it or not. But there is something about India that is happening currently in international relations that it seems that many are not paying attention to in terms of its soft power influence. Now, growing up in Africa when I was young, the hardest thing on television or on the television screen were basically relating to India. We are talking about Bollywood. I grew up watching movies such as Sholay, Indian Trailer, and so on. I remember many times, even to this day, when I meet Indians, especially Indian students, I kind of tease them, have you watched Sholay? Have you watched this movie? Have you watched that movie? In many cases, they'll say, oh, I haven't. Who's that? And I'll provoke them, basically tease them like, wow, you must not be a real Indian. Basically try to stress how influential India and India's Bollywood was in Africa growing up. Whether we are talking about the beauty of the Indian people, the way they speak or spoke. Now, in current times, India or Indians, in terms of their academic prowess, okay, technical ability, going all over the world, whether we are talking about the West, the United States, Canada, Europe, Australia, China, and so on, Indians are all over. They're engaging in trades, economic activities, and technical and technological activities as well. But on the diplomatic stage, perhaps India may not realize how strong it is or has become. Yes, we know much recently the Indians asserting themselves on the world stage and conducting a pragmatic diplomatic activities. And India stood its ground when it was forced by Western countries to take sides to support Ukraine and shun Russia. India refused to do so. Now, one of the many ways in which India influences the world is by its export of talents to the rest of the world, and in this case, most especially to the West. All over the world and in the West, there are thousands of young Indians, many of whom are in the IT sector or some kind of technological or innovation sector, that are basically running Western companies or helping the Western technical system run smoothly. Of course, many of these young Indians students are not going to go back to India. But those who are going to return to India are going to help rejuvenate India, make India great in the future. Perhaps it seems that the Indians are doing much more for their country than expected or acknowledged. Yes, the Indian government is very much pragmatic and continues to do its best. However, it seems where India shines is through its exports of talent, okay, its soft power. That is so much the case with the recent development where the leaders of two of the most powerful countries in the world were either Indian or part Indian heritage. And that could become the case as of now. For example, the first non white or first South Asian or Asian Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was of Indian heritage. His name is Rishi Sunak. And the first non white person of color Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, is of Indian and black origin. Okay? And now Kamala Harris is running for President of the United States. If she wins the election in November, it means that an Indian person or a person of Indian origin has become the president of the most powerful country in the world. If Kamala Harris loses the election in November, Donald Trump wins, which means that J.D. Vance will become the vice president of the United States, and his wife is an Indian origin person. So in this case, it seems that India is all over. Perhaps India will not influence decision making in the United States or in the United Kingdom. Of course, Rishi Sunak is no longer the prime minister. Keir Starmer is now the prime minister of the United Kingdom. However, in terms of soft power, in terms of image and symbolism, the influence of India and its soft power goes a long way by having its heritage in the White House or in number 10 Downing Street as the leader of these two countries. Now, in terms of Rishi Sunak, yes, we can say that Modi had no influence on the British or Rishi Sunak's policy, whether we are talking about domestic or international policy. However, perhaps looking now, reflecting, I would have expected that Modi, being a pro-Indian or nationalist that he is, to have had some influence. That is because if Rishi Sunak remains in power, that means the heritage, the image of India, symbolically and realistically, is the face of the United Kingdom. I don't know whether the Modi government had the influence to try to tweak Rishi Sunak to make a good policy so that he can be in power. Because him being the prime minister of the United Kingdom means India is celebrated in terms of its soft power. But looking at what's happening, India and the Indian people should be very happy because in terms of their soft power, their heritage and their image, their symbols had become the symbol or symbols of the two most powerful countries in the world. However, had Rishi Sunak remained in power and Kamala Harris winning the next election in November, it would have been, I believe, symbolically glorious for India. Just imagine the three leaders, Modi, Kamala Harris, and Rishi Sunak, showing up or meeting at the next G20 summit, where all three of them together. Visually, symbolically, that would have been glorious and something intimate, something that Indians can be proud of. It doesn't necessarily mean that by Sunak being in power and Kamala Harris winning the next election, that India will have influence on their policy, on US policy or on British policy. No, heck no, it is not going to happen. But soft power in today's world, I do believe symbolically, diplomatically, internationally, it's a big deal for any country. And I do believe that countries might want to construct, propagate, or celebrate, spread their soft power. That is the case with the United States. Whether we are talking about hip hop, sports, and recreation, academics or academia, infrastructure, Hollywood, music. The United States does a lot when it comes to the celebration of its soft power. We even saw that this past Olympics in Paris, where countless American celebrities showed up celebrating, supporting the U.S. Olympic teams. Whether we are talking about soccer, basketball, tennis, volleyball, gymnastics, and other sports, Americans poured into Paris to support Team USA's of the various sports. Now, I am going to end here, my friends. I want to hear what you think, especially if you are an Indian person. Please tell me what you think. Let me know what you think in terms of how symbolic it would have been for India, based on your thoughts or based on what other Indians are saying. Had Rishi Sunak remained the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and if Kamala Harris wins the next election in November this year, or if Donald Trump wins the election and JD Vance becomes the next vice president with his wife being an Indian person. Please let me know what you think. Now, I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, but most especially my friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.